I think with pop culture now, Marvel movies are really popular because it kind of fuses two publics. It's people who like the action movies, people who like fantasies and superheroes, so you give them a little bit of both, and that way they gain, I guess, more audience.
I think one of the things they have in common would be the interconnectivity. You get a lot of that in the comic books, which is what drew me specifically to Marvel. DC has it to some extent, not as much as Marvel, and I just liked the feeling of like picking up a comic book, seeing something happen here and then picking up like, say, Spider-Man and seeing the tail end of what happened in Fantastic Four pick up there. And I think that translates over to the movies really well, especially when you take into consideration like Thor Ragnarok going into Infinity War. That was literally the end of one movie going into the beginning of the other. I started reading comics in 2011, so I've got 8 years of continuity under my belt, specifically for Marvel. I mean, I read stuff from a ton of different publishers, which is kind of required since I'm working at a comic book store, but Marvel is what I naturally gravitated to.
All right, my earliest experience with the MCU was with the crossover comic book. It was Doctor Strange Fate, and that kind of got me into more of the comic books. I had a friend who lent me the Venom comic books, I had some Carnage, I have a few Spider-Mans here and there, and I also had a TA in school who was a really good artist. He actually did a lot of pictures for us for Spider-Man, and that kind of got me into, I guess, the comics and seeing the cartoons that had to do with the comics.
In my opinion, I feel like one of the big influences and why it's so popular is a lot of the hype. So in terms of like the youth, young adults today, a lot of us are very into like aesthetic of older things.
People just like to see other people get punched in the face really hard. It's kind of like why wrestling was so popular and continues to be popular, but now you're doing it with these characters that we all grew up with.
In terms of films, a blockbuster is a film that typically has a very large budget. So with that budget, you can have A-list actors, you can have crazy special effects, you can pay people to make a ton of merchandise for you. And also, as far as the storyline goes, it has the typical 3-act structure. So, there's the setup, the confrontation, and the resolution. So the story arc is typically exactly the same in all blockbusters. The Marvel Cinematic Universe definitely fits into blockbusters because they use a crazy amount of special effects, especially, the newer stuff that's coming out now, using green screens and using actual like physical suits and other such things to make their universes out of this world.
I feel like the thing that started it all off would be probably, I guess, phase 1, the Marvel MCU would be like Iron Man.
I have vivid memories of watching it in high school and like economics on our downtime. When it started off, it was for sure younger people, and now you have everyone watching. You don't just have kids, but I guess over time they've brought in their parents, and in some cases their parents have brought in their parents, so now you have 3 generations watching the Marvel movies. I'm for sure anticipating Endgame. I mean, it's hard not to when Infinity War is a cliffhanger. Yeah, definitely anticipating what's coming after that. You've heard rumors here and there of different franchises, oddball franchises that are going to get movies, and we all saw how well that went with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, for after Endgame, I'm very interested in what they're going to go, or how things are going to go from phase 3, especially since I believe this is the last movie that the Russo brothers was going to do. So, the feeling that we've got from Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, all of that, just very interested how the Marvel is going to change things up from here on then.